I think I'm excited too. Bridgerton has been known a lot for colorblind casting, but as a white woman, you've also brought a lot of your own self, as in your own queer identity, to the show, to the narrative. So, how do you think you've incorporated that into the narrative? How important was that to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has more to do for me with generally making sure that this is a show where more and more people can see themselves represented.
Yeah.
I think Bridgerton is known in many ways for its inclusivity, and it felt like queerness was the one area where, especially in main leading characters, people weren't given the opportunity to see themselves represented. The fact that I happen to be queer is, a plus, a sprinkle on top in terms of I do understand how to write those kinds of stories, but it is not the main driving reason for that choice.
Hmm. You've worked all your career at Shondaland. By working closely with Shonda Rhimes, what is it that you've picked up from her as a visionary, as a creator, that you've also kind of incorporated into your own craft and your own vision?
Shonda has a real knack for telling stories that are unexpected, I think. My training as a writer is really rooted in structure and character, but structure in a big way in terms of, following the beats of a story. But Shonda, I think she challenges me to think outside of the box and, think about what I would really want to see as a viewer rather than just writing what feels like it should, what feels like, what should happen. And that I think creates much more, talk-worthy moments and moments that surprise people and make people swoon.
Yeah, that's right. So you moved to London to work on these two seasons of Bridgerton. Is that correct?
I did, yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
moved to London.
But
I've been in London for 4 years now.
yeah, and how has that been like? Because I'm sure it's like it's a huge shift, it's a drastic shift on a personal front. But professionally, how has that helped you to, know the land better? Because the story is from the land that you're telling. And, how did you get a sense of what that land is made of, its fragrance, what its history entails, and has that kind of carried that through in the show?
It's funny because Bridgerton is such a fantasy. It's also a fantasy of London. Like our version of London is basically sunny 365 days a year, which is so inaccurate. So in many ways, and because it's the 1800s, I feel like what has really helped inspire the show is going to museums here, going to the countryside and visiting the National Trust sites and, taking in the architecture from that era and things like that. But actually living in London, I think that would inspire a whole other show, but it probably doesn't translate much to Bridgerton, to be honest.